Imagine you're trying to fill a bucket with water, but the bucket has 100 tiny pinpricks in the bottom. You're pouring water in as fast as you can, working overtime, asking for raises, maybe even trying to pick the next hot stock. But somehow, the water level never rises. That's what I call the convenience tax, and it's one of the biggest reasons why so many people feel broke even when they're working hard. Because for a lot of households, the problem isn't just income. It's the silent leaks, the delivery fees, the subscriptions, the car payment, the impulse buys, the "I deserve this" purchases that feel small in the moment but quietly destroy your future freedom. Today, I'm going to show you the brutal math behind why your daily micro-decisions may be more dangerous than your big expenses. And by the end of this video, I'll give you my 72-hour decision filter, a simple system to plug these holes once and for all, so your financial bucket finally starts to fill up. Chapter 1. The Anatomy of a Leak. Let's talk about what normal looks like. The average American household earns around $84,000 a year, while the average individual earns closer to $52,000. That sounds decent on paper, but here's the problem. The average household is also carrying over $9,000 in credit card debt. And most people assume that debt comes from one giant, irresponsible purchase, a vacation, a new TV, some crazy shopping spree. But usually, that's not how it happens. The data tells a much more uncomfortable story. The average American spends over $3,000 a year on coffee, dining out, and convenience purchases. That's roughly $250 a month disappearing into things you probably won't even remember by next Tuesday. Think about your last 5 Amazon orders. How many were real needs, and how many were just convenience? Be honest. And here's where it gets ugly. If you're paying 22% interest on $9,000 of credit card debt while spending $3,000 a year on convenience, you're not just leaking money, you're pouring gasoline on the fire. That credit card interest alone can cost you around $1,800 a year. That's money that could have been the foundation of your first $10,000. Instead, it's being transferred from your future self to a bank. Chapter 2. The Decision Fatigue Trap. So, why do we do this? It's not because you're lazy. It's not because you're stupid. It's because modern life is engineered to exhaust your decision-making. This is called decision fatigue. Every single day, you make thousands of tiny financial choices. Name brand or generic pasta, Uber Eats or cooking, premium gas or regular, buy it now or wait, subscribe or skip. Each choice burns a little mental energy, and by 6 p.m., your brain is tired. That's when the convenience tax strikes. You pay $25 for a delivery meal because you don't have the mental bandwidth to calculate that the same meal at home might cost $5. And this is where being broke becomes expensive. Because when you have no savings, every dollar feels high stakes. Every decision feels heavy. And ironically, that pressure makes you more likely to make worse decisions. I once knew someone who cried in a grocery store after finally hitting $10,000 in savings. Not because they bought champagne, but because for the first time in years, they had the mental space to choose the food they actually wanted instead of just picking the cheapest survival option. That's the silent trap. Convenience feels like a reward for your hard work, but often it's the very thing keeping you trapped in survival mode. You think you're buying relief, but what you're really buying is another month of stress. Chapter 3. The Brutal Math of Lifestyle Leaks. Now let's run some Ben Invest style math. If you redirected just 1/3 of that $3,000 in annual convenience spending into a basic index fund, you could hit your first $10,000 in just a few years. Not from becoming a genius investor, not from timing the market, not from buying some crypto coin your cousin swears is going to 100 times, just from plugging the leak. But now let's talk about the big one, the car payment. The average car payment is now over $700 a month, and many people are spending $1,000 to $1,200 a month when you include the loan, insurance, gas, and maintenance. sometimes on a truck they don't use for work, sometimes on an SUV they bought because it made them feel successful. This is what I call automotive Stockholm syndrome. We've normalized spending 25% to 30% of take-home pay on a depreciating asset, and somehow we call it responsible. We justify a $900 car payment by saying, "I need reliable transportation." But we'd stage an intervention if our friend spent $900 a month on coffee. If you're spending $1,100 a month on a car and insurance, and another $4,300 on a house or apartment you're stretching to afford, you're not building wealth. You're practicing wealth destruction with cup holders. And the worst part? It feels normal because everyone around you is doing the same thing. Chapter 4. The 72-Hour Decision Filter. So how do you break the cycle? You don't need more motivation. Motivation fades. You need a system. That's where the 72-Hour Decision Filter comes in. It has 3 steps. Step 1. The pause. Any non-essential purchase over $50 goes into a holding pattern for 72 hours. Not forever, just 3 days. Because impulse loves urgency, but good decisions love space. Step 2. The opportunity cost calculation. Ask yourself, is this $100 item worth what it could become if I invested it instead? Because that $100 isn't just $100. Over 20 years invested consistently, it could be worth several times more. So the real question is not, can I afford this today? The real question is, what is this costing my future self? Step 3. The identity check. Ask yourself, am I buying this because I actually need it, or because I want to look like the kind of person who owns it? That question alone will save you thousands. Quick recap. Pause, calculate, identify. 3 steps that can save you $3,000 a year. And this is where your mindset changes. You stop saying, "I can't afford this," and you start saying, "I'm choosing not to buy this because I value my freedom more." That is a completely different level of control. Chapter 5. Reaching escape velocity. Now, the point of all this is not to become cheap. It's not to be miserable. It's not to never eat out, never have fun, and sit in the dark counting pennies. The point is to reach what I call escape velocity. Escape velocity is the moment your finances stop controlling every decision you make. When you save your first $10,000 or $20,000, your relationship with work changes. You gain what I call walking away money. Not enough to retire, but enough to breathe. Enough to say no. Enough to leave a bad job. Enough to negotiate without sounding desperate. Enough to make decisions from strength instead of fear. And when you aren't gasping for financial air, you make better choices. You shop around for insurance instead of blindly accepting the renewal. You negotiate your salary because you're not terrified of hearing no. You stop buying things to prove you're doing well because you actually are doing well. At $2,000 in savings, your financial well-being can improve dramatically. At $20,000, something even bigger happens. Your brain starts moving out of survival mode and into growth mode. The average person saves only around 6% of their income. If you can beat that average by being intentional with the small stuff, the compound effect over 30 years is massive. It can be the difference between retiring stressed and retiring with real options. And options are the entire game. The silent trap is believing wealth is built in giant leaps. It usually isn't. Wealth is built by plugging the tiny holes in the bucket, so when the big raises come, the water actually stays inside. Because if your habits are broken at $50,000 a year, they'll still be broken at $100,000. More income doesn't fix a leaking system. It just gives you more water to lose. You deserve better than normal. Normal is credit card debt. Normal is car payments forever. Normal is living paycheck to paycheck while looking successful online. Normal is waking up at 55 wondering where all the money went. You don't need normal, you need control. And control starts with the next decision. If you're ready to stop being normal and start building real wealth, hit the subscribe button. Remember, the person you become while saving your first $10,000 is worth infinitely more than the money itself. I'll see you in the next one.